And there's more with Senator Cruz, including all the campaign events we've covered with him online at C-SPAN's video library. We're going to leave this now to take you live to Iowa for remarks by Kentucky Senator and Republican presidential candidate Rand Paul, who's just arrived here in Iowa.
One awesome announcement. We are planning on turning out 10,000 college students for Rand Paul. Right here at Drake, we do have a meetup location. This Monday, 6 p.m., we're going to be right in here. We're expecting tons and tons of folks to come out. So if you're a Drake student, grab one of our palm cards. We've got it on here. If you're not a student, right, we're trying to build a big coalition. We've got these volunteer cards. If you're interested in speaking at your caucus or even helping us out making phone calls the next couple days leading up to Monday, fill this out. We'll get you all set up. If you're willing to speak at your caucus, we can even get you set up with that. Who's ready to hear from the next president of the United States? Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the next president, Senator Rand Paul.
Thank you. Are there any liberty lovers in the house? Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to the home stretch. Here we come, Iowa. I want to tell you why America needs to hear your voice. We live in a world that is increasingly becoming unmoored from tradition, delinked from our ancestors, and separated from immutable notions of right and wrong. Great questions of faith elude us because we have let banality become accepted as a superlative and vulgarity accepted as the norm. Einstein wrote, "The most beautiful emotion we can experience is the mysterious. He to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer wonder and stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead, a snuffed-out candle. To sense that behind anything that can be experienced there is something that our minds cannot grasp, whose beauty and sublimity reaches us only indirectly, this is religiousness. In order to embrace the mystery, we must be free. Without liberty, our senses are dulled and dumbed down by rules and regulations. What victory is faith if we are not free to choose it? The question we face is not of the moment, but of such a magnitude that we choose today whether liberty can survive in a democracy unrestrained by a constitution. Can a civilization that chooses to transfer the fruits of labor from one group to another, can such a civilization long endure? Won't we inevitably run out of other people's money? The American experiment with liberty is not totally won. Today, tomorrow, and the day after, we must fight to restrain Big Brother. Will you stand with me? Will you stand together against the rising tide of government excess that threatens to trap us in the clutches of Big Brother? Will you stand with me? Yeah. Liberty is under assault like never before. In Washington and on the campaign trail, Republicans and Democrats alike call out for bigger government. Only a president who understands the corrupting influence of big government can stop it. On the right, the call is for enlarging the military state. On the left, the call is for enlarging the welfare state. And the dirty little secret in Washington is that the right and the left always get what they want, more spending. And you get stuck with the bill. The loudest voices in Washington for more spending are actually right now coming from Republicans. Recently, Cruz and Rubio, they put forward an amendment to increase military spending $200 billion. This would add $200 billion to the debt. When I countered them with an amendment that would have cut domestic spending in order to pay for it, they refused to support the cuts. The inconvenient truth is that you cannot be a conservative if you are liberal with military spending. We do not become a stronger or a safer nation if we borrow from China to inflate our military budget. We spend more on our military budget than Russia, plus China, plus the next 8 countries combined. There's waste everywhere, from $43 million for a natural gas station in Afghanistan to $1 million for a televised Afghani cricket league. They don't even have televisions in Afghanistan. The only problem is that this unholy compromise is that the Republicans, you know what, they get more Republican, they get more military spending, but only if they trade Democrats a whopping dose of increased domestic spending. If we want to balance the budget, if we truly do believe in what we say we believe in, all spending must be restrained. Every Republican says they're for balancing the budget, but nobody ever does it. I've actually introduced 3 budgets that balance. I've been able to do it by actually cutting spending across the board. The National Taxpayers Union has recognized this. They've named me the most frugal lawmaker in Washington because I'm willing to look for waste everywhere across the board. Right and left spend too much money, but they also are carelessly infringing on our civil liberties. Both parties are contributing to an assault on your Bill of Rights. The left attacks your Second Amendment, your right to bear arms. The right attacks your Fourth Amendment, your right to be left alone. I'm the only candidate that stands for the entire Bill of Rights. Since the terrorist attack in San Bernardino, the left calls out for more gun control, while the right calls out for more people control. The left calls for bans on gun sales, and the right clamors for the government to gather up all of our records. I don't know about you, but I say that our phone records are none of their damn business. They claim we can't be safe without letting the government inspect everything, collect all of our records. But there's no evidence that these actions have made us any safer. 2 bipartisan commissions investigated the government's bulk collection of data, and they found absolutely 0 terrorist plots were thwarted. The Circuit Court, the court just below the Supreme Court, ruled that the bulk collection of your phone records is illegal. And yet some still want to bring it back. Rubio said, we got to have it back. We can't be safe unless we look at everything you own. I say it's wrong. And I say it has to end. We need to protect your privacy. Now, Cruz, he claimed he was with us on reforming the NSA. But I think he talks out of both sides of his mouth. Did you hear his explanation in the debate? He says he voted for the bill to reform the NSA because he wants to allow the government to collect 100% of your cell phone records. If his goal is to collect 100% of your cell phone records, he greatly misunderstands the liberty movement. I've got a better idea. How about we collect 0% of your cell phone records? When I am president, we will once again respect the Fourth Amendment with as much vigor as we defend the Second Amendment. Amen. When I am president, we will once again defend the entire Bill of Rights from top to bottom. Ted Cruz, Donald Trump, Marco Rubio. They all tell you that they want to carpet bomb the Middle East. Cruz tells you he wants to make the sand glow. Trump says the problem is we haven't been willing enough to use our nuclear weapons. I'm the only candidate that asks, will indiscriminate bombing of civilians create more terrorists than it actually kills? I'm the only one willing to point out that every time we've used our military might to topple secular dictators, from Hussein to Gaddafi, the result has been chaos. And the void has been filled not with Jeffersonian democracy, but with radical Islam. The Iraq War alone cost us $1 trillion. We lost 5,000 of our finest young men and women. Thousands more live on with catastrophic injuries. As Commander-in-Chief, I will never, never ignore the human cost of war. The other candidates offer you more of the same: macho rhetoric, fear-mongering, and perpetual war. Rubio says we should shun Putin. Caton says we should punch Russia in the nose, whatever that means. Christie says he's ready to shoot down Russian planes currently flying over Syria and Iraq. And yet no one asked, what next? Alone on the stage, I call for a reasonable, a realist foreign policy where we stand strong enough to deter any attack, but not eager to start World War III. Yeah. When I am president, I will adhere to the Reagan doctrine. That war should be the last resort, not the first. And when I am president, we will only fight wars that are constitutionally declared by Congress. When I am president, we will only fight war to defend America, not for regime change and not for nation building. Now, one candidate in particular wants you to give him power. He tells you he's so rich, he must be smart. If you give him power, He will fix America. But you know, there's another tradition in America, a tradition that believes that power corrupts, and that our goal should not be to gain power, but to contain power and to limit presidential power. Our founding fathers feared centralization of power. As Madison wrote, "Where an excess of power prevails, no man is safe in his opinions, his person, or his possessions." Our founders wrote the Constitution to restrain the accumulation of power by government. Trump is ignorant of this tradition. And in many cases, he is overtly opposed to the limited government philosophy. He believes that the government has the right to seize your property and give it to a rich crony through eminent domain. This is abhorrent to anyone who champions the rights of the individual. He supported the government bailing out the big banks. He's used the government to get rich and bully his competition, and now he asks you to give him power. This race should not be about which candidate, or this race should be about which candidate will protect you from an overbearing government, not about which candidate will grab the ring of power. Electing Gollum should not be our objective. I'm the only one in this race who doesn't want power or dominion over you. I want to set you free. I want to leave you alone. And I want a government so small you can barely see it. For several years now, as you know, I've been fighting against indefinite detention. This is a law that allows American citizens to be imprisoned without a jury trial. A law that was unfortunately signed by President Obama a few years ago. My fear is that one day a president might use indefinite detention the same way FDR did, to send Japanese Americans to internment camps or to detain African Americans like they did in the Old South. Power corrupts, as we have seen with an out-of-control IRS using its power to harass and intimidate conservatives for their political beliefs. The IRS presumes you are guilty until proven innocent. Imagine being detained without a trial because your own government deems you suspect but does not have to prove it. When I think of the terrible possibilities of indefinite detention, I'm reminded of a scene from To Kill a Mockingbird when Atticus stares down the vigilante mob that has come to lynch Tom Robertson. Luckily, Scout comes to the rescue, as she always does. She recognizes the leader of the mob as the father of a boy from her class. "I go to school with your son Walter," she says. "He's in my grade and he does right well. I beat him up once, but he was real nice about it. Tell him hey for me, won't you?" The little girl broke the angry mood of the mob by personalizing it. Scout found the inner humanity that exists even in a mob hell-bent on violence. When there is a mob intent on indiscriminate government searches, when there is a mob intent on detention without trial, then someone must stand and shout down that mob. As president, I will not only shout down the mob, I will end indefinite detention once and for all. When everyone says we must give up our liberty for a false sense of security, I can't help but think of Atticus again. When Atticus took the case of defending Tom Robinson, most of the townsfolk thought him wrong. In Washington, that sentiment is often true. After my filibuster for the right to be left alone, some said I was the most unpopular man in Washington. It felt that way. But I thought of what Atticus said. Before I can live with other folks, I got to live with myself. The one thing that doesn't abide with majority rule is conscience. The majority is not always right. In fact, the majority is quite often wrong. An idea whose time has come, as Victor Hugo said, an idea whose time has come is stronger than all armies. For a Republican to win again, see, this isn't just about the primary. We get caught up in the primary. It's about winning the presidency, which means winning Iowa, which hasn't always been easy. But for us to win again, we will need to be brave enough to believe that ideas are powerful, maybe even stronger than armies. To win, we will need to be a bigger, better, bolder party. We need to welcome people of all walks of life, black, white, brown, with tattoos, without tattoos, with earrings, without earrings, in overalls and in suits. We need to become a bigger, more diverse party. As my dad always says, liberty. As my dad always says, liberty brings people together. It's the common desire to be left alone that binds us all as unique individuals. After all, big government hurts people from all walks of life, rich and poor. The woman in Detroit who wants to run a hair braiding business, who's run out of her apartment and shut down by big government. The developer moving dirt on his own land who's jailed by armed EPA agents. The small business that can't compete with corporations and their armies of compliance officers, accountants and lawyers. The elderly woman losing her home to eminent domain, also known as Donald Trump. The teenager from a poor family facing jail time for marijuana. What do these individuals all have in common? They're losing their liberty to big government. Today, your government has 48 federal agencies, from the IRS to the Department of Education, that all have their own SWAT teams. Is that freedom? No! When I am president, these attacks on your liberty will stop once and for all. The GOP has been the party of emancipation. We are the party of civil rights. We need to be the party of justice. Yeah. Justice begins when the war on drugs ends. A generation of young black men have been incarcerated and permanently lost the privilege of voting and the opportunity of work. The war on drugs has disproportionately incarcerated those who live in poverty in our cities. Though blacks and whites use drugs at similar rates, 3 out of 4 people in prison are black or brown. We must begin to treat addiction as a health problem, not an incarceration problem. For 5 years, I fought for a vote on Audit the Fed. When I finally got the vote, Ted Cruz was nowhere to be found. In fact, Ted was the only Republican to miss the vote. But even worse, Ted maintains that the correct response to the Great Recession was to have the Fed more aggressively lower interest rates, when we all know that artificially low interest rates are the problem, not the solution. When I am president, the Federal Reserve will learn that their days of unlimited power are over. America has much greatness left in her. We are still exceptional, and we are still a beacon for the world. We'll thrive when we believe in ourselves again. I see an America strong enough to deter foreign aggression, yet wise enough to avoid unnecessary intervention. I see an America where criminal justice is applied equally, and any law that disproportionately incarcerates people of color is repealed. I see an America with a restrained IRS that cannot target and harass American citizens for their political or religious beliefs. I see a simplified, flat tax that unburdens our citizens from the fear and intimidation of the IRS code. I would eliminate the entire tax code, the IRS, and unleash the engine of capitalism to create jobs and opportunity like never before. We have the highest corporate taxes in the world. Is it really any wonder that our companies are leaving our shores? Money goes where it's welcome. I would bring corporate investment back by cutting our corporate tax and immediately bringing home $2 trillion in American profit. I see our big cities. I see our big cities once again shining and beckoning with creativity and ingenuity, with American companies offering American jobs. I have a vision for an America beyond partisan squabbling, beyond petty divisions. With your help, this message will ring from coast to coast, a message of liberty, justice, and personal responsibility. A message that can gain support from across the political spectrum. A message that can prevail and win the White House. The journey to take back America will not be easy. It will not be without obstacles. But together, we can do what others say is not possible. Stand with me now as together we seek a new vision for America. I ask for your vote today for the presidency of the United States. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Before you go, everybody, we need 5 minutes to tell you about the campaign and what happens in 4 days, if you don't know. So, on your chairs, you saw these cards when you came in. My name is Steve Grubbs, and I'm the chief strategist here in Iowa for Rand Paul. We know what we have to do to win. We know that there's been a lot of money spent on television. There have been a lot of phone calls made. Let me give you a quick update on the campaign, and I'll be quick. We have over 1,000 precinct captains helping us out statewide, but there are 1,700 precincts. So we're still looking for a few more people who will stand up in their caucus and either speak from the heart or read a statement on behalf of Rand Paul. So we're looking for a few more people. If you're willing to do that, we want you to fill out this card, and whether you're in-state or out-of-state, in-state, obviously, first preference. But if we have a precinct where we don't have somebody, one that's unfilled, then there are tables over here, and we want to plug you in into a precinct. So fill out this card, and we have, I think, 7 laptops set up over here, and walk over here and hand your card in. But let's say you don't want to speak at your caucus. You just want to go to the caucus. And can I just see you raise your hands if you've never been to an Iowa caucus before? Look at that, maybe a third of the room. You're who's going to make the difference in this caucus right there. Here's the tricky thing, and here's what throws a lot of people off. A lot of people think that their caucus, they go to their caucus where they go to vote in a school board or a gubernatorial election, right? It's not where you go. With the caucus, the state Republican Party has set up locations in schools and in firehouses and in all sorts of crazy places across the state. And so do one of two things. Either go to www.yourcaucus.com, that easy, yourcaucus.com, and put in your address. Or, before you leave here today, fill out this card and drop it off with our team, and we will call you or we will email you to verify the location of your caucus. We want to make it easy so that you don't miss it. Be to your caucus at 6:30 p.m. on Monday night, no later. Now, maybe you're not registered to vote. Doesn't matter. You can register to vote at the caucus. So especially show up at 6:30. Maybe you're 17, or you know somebody who's 17, or somebody who lives with you who's 17. As long as they're 18 by the general election this fall, they can vote. Take them with you. Now, I couldn't quite vote, but my mother took me to my first caucus when I was 16, and I'm still doing it 10 years later. So, we're going to leave it at this. We have a chance, very few people in the state of Iowa have a chance to make a big difference, not just in the United States, but we have a greater impact in electing the most powerful position in the world than any other group of people. We have 4 days to make a dramatic difference for freedom, for liberty, for our children, and for the United States of America. Thank you for coming. Fill these cards out, and let's go Rand Paul.
About the young people who've been involved in your campaign, who spent some time in your campaign office yesterday. How important is it?
It's really exciting to see so many people volunteering. I think the youth naturally gravitate to the message of leave me alone, government ought to leave me alone.
C-SPAN's Road to the White House coverage continues from Iowa. You saw just a moment ago some of the organizational aspects of the caucuses and a chance for you to watch a Republican caucus here on C-SPAN and a Democratic caucus on C-SPAN 2. Our phone lines are open if you are attending the caucuses as either a Democrat or a Republican. The number to call is 202-748-8920. And for the rest of the country, 202-748-8921. 8921. Senator Rand Paul is making his way to the C-SPAN bus. A busy day on the campus of Drake University. In addition to this event at this hour tonight, Donald Trump will be on the campus of Drake University, that competing event, since he is not participating in that Fox News Channel debate, and scheduled to start the same time that the debate gets underway, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock local time, and we'll have live coverage of that. A couple of tweets as well, including this from one viewer saying, wow, what a diverse and young crowd for Rand Paul at Drake University. And also some news at this hour from the union leader in Manchester, New Hampshire. MSNBC and the union leader have worked out an agreement. There will be a debate next Thursday evening, and a commitment from Hillary Clinton, Martin O'Malley, and Bernie Sanders. That debate carried on MSNBC and will be moderated by NBC's Chuck Todd, the moderator of Meet the Press. Let's get to your phone calls. First from Charles in Campbellsville, Kentucky. Good afternoon to you. Your thoughts about what you heard from your senator?
Well, he is my senator from the state of Kentucky, and I'm very, very impressed with what he has said. So impressed that is there any possibility to get his email address to where I could send him something?
You can go to his campaign website. I don't have his email address, but if you go to that, or also his Senate press office, you can certainly get it from him. What do you want to email him?
Well, around here in Kentucky, they keep saying that cream rises to the top. And I fully believe that this is a young man that is going to rise to the top. And it's impressive to watch him. And I can just say, thank you about this, and thank you for being. It's just wonderful.
Thank you for the call. Let's go to Bailey joining us from Illinois. Good afternoon.
Hi. I'm currently a college student, and I'm majoring in business and economics. And I just have a question for Senator Paul as to how exactly he is going to pay down our $19 trillion debt.
Let's listen in. Senator Paul, who walked out but is back inside the arena at Drake University, will listen in as he makes his way through the crowd.
Thank you. Thank you.
She's at the debate tonight, too.
Hey, how are you?
She earned it.
I think we're just signing our stuff. Thanks. Hey, how are you?
Hi, sir. Do you mind if I take a picture with you?
All right, we're gonna
Sure.
Thank you. You look fabulous, both of you. Good luck tonight.
All right, are we doing the interview inside or outside?
On the bus, the C-SPAN bus.
Do I have my code anywhere?
We'll get it, yep.
You're giving the microphone on.
Thank you. Thank you.
That way?
Into the bus.
We're going straight to the bus.
Yeah, I still got
Yeah, Robert.
We're going to do one quick Snapchat that'll go on the national story.
All right.
Right outside the bus.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, I have a question for you. So you were here earlier this year?
Oh, we don't have time to belong to each other. You want to?
Yeah.
Stop.
I think he's got an interview to try to.
You're going to be talking to Steve Scully. He's back in Washington.
All right.
Thanks again.
We have Robert with us somewhere?
Yeah, he was a second ago.
Right here. Oh man,
You got
wrong state.
Senator, how are you?
Come on up.
Hey,
Come on aboard.
all right. Go ahead.
Sophia, come on.
Hi, Shelley Zoo. Yes, to meet you.
Hi, how are you?
Senator Rand Paul making his way on board the C-SPAN bus. We have a moment or two while he gets ready, and so we'll take your calls. Bob from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, you're on the air. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Your thoughts on what you heard from Senator Paul?
Pardon?
Your thoughts about what you just heard a moment ago from Senator Paul?
Yes, I like flat taxes. I sure hope that means no more April 15th, that the companies collect the taxes, and if the government gets their hands on it, it's theirs. If they don't, it's mine.
Bob, thanks for the call. Let's go next to Joshua, joining us from West Covina, California. Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
You're on the air.
How are you doing?
Fine,
yeah, I'm just calling to say I just watched the Rand Paul here at Drake, and I really agree with him. I'm a college student myself, and specifically his non-interventionist foreign policy really speaks to me, because I did have a lot of friends that went to Iraq and Afghanistan, and so that's sort of like it's our generation right there.
Joshua, thanks for the call. By the way, if you live in Iowa, Democrat or Republican, and if you will be attending the caucuses on Monday evening, we want to hear from you as well. That number to call is 202-748-8920. We will also welcome our listeners on C-SPAN Radio, streamed on the web at cspan.org and heard nationwide on XM. Again, the number for Iowa caucus goers is 202-748-8920. Let's go to John, joining us from Wesley Chapel, Florida. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yes, I only got to think about that. He was talking about the taxes. It's not fair that Obama is taking our taxes if we can't afford insurance. And the Obamacare, like I work 5 days a week, and I still can't even afford the Obamacare. Is he going to be able to do anything with the Obamacare?
Okay, John, thanks for the call. We're getting your comments for a couple of minutes, and joining us shortly, Senator Rand Paul, who is on board the C-SPAN bus. But first, we'll go to Matt, joining us from Darlington, South Carolina. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was wondering if Rand could speak about the dangers of the polling system that we have, where it seems like the candidate are predetermined winners before we even have any caucuses or primaries.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's determined whoever wins before we even started. Like it would be like college football, a team that's ranked 50th shouldn't even play if they're not in the top 10. And I was just wondering about the danger to that, and the whole system of how they go about polling, and the people that they do poll, and,
Sure.
and that he might be shunned out of that because of the system that they use.
Have you ever been surveyed by any news organization, Matt?
No, I never have.
Okay.
And most people don't have landlines now to use cell phones, and I understand that's basically how they do their polling.
Okay, thanks for the call. Again, a reminder, we'll have live coverage of the caucuses on the C-SPAN networks. C-SPAN 1 will have live coverage of a caucus in northwestern Iowa, and on C-SPAN 2, a chance to watch the caucuses for the Democrats meeting in the greater Des Moines area. There will be more than 1,800 caucus locations around the country, and then a chance to hear from those winners and losers on caucus night, part of our Road to the White House coverage. Senator Paul with us in just a moment, but first, Jacob, Austin, Texas. Go ahead, please.
Hey, how you doing?
Fine, thank you.
All right. Well, I'm calling just to say I am voting for Rand Paul. I voted for Obama in 2008, Ron Paul in 2012. The reason I'm supporting Rand Paul is I really believe that you're either heading more towards liberty, more towards tyranny. Now, that may sound extreme, but it just is a fact. You're never standing right in the middle. And I agree that Rand Paul is going to slowly take our nation towards more of a libertarian route and just more towards liberty overall. It doesn't happen in a night, obviously, but I agree with his path to liberty. Thank you.
Jacob, thanks for the call. A reminder, all of our coverage available on our website, live and tape coverage, cspan.org. And joining us from the Campaign 2016 bus in Des Moines is Senator Rand Paul. Senator, thanks very much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Let me ask you first, you're on the main stage tonight. There's a competing event, Donald Trump across town. Knowing all of that, what is your strategy for this evening's debate on the Fox News Channel?
You know, I think it's important for me to get my message out, and also the uniqueness of my message I think I'm the only fiscal conservative on the stage because I'm the only one that's willing to hold the line on spending across the board, whether it's outrageous and wasteful military spending or whether it's outrageous and wasteful domestic spending. Many of the Republicans, I think, have gone along with Democrats to raise spending because they want higher military spending, but they end up trading with the Democrats and giving them higher domestic spending. And this is why the deficit or the debt actually doubled under George W. Bush and then doubled again under President Obama, because what's happening is the right and left want to continue spending just for different reasons, but they get together and we're currently borrowing $1 million a minute. I think it's a real problem, but I think I'm the only one who consistently has said we have to look at all spending in order to balance the budget.
As you know, we just showed your event live here on the C-SPAN networks, and many of our viewers with questions for you, so thank you for doing that as well. Steve is joining us from Ankeny, Iowa. You're going to go to the caucuses on Monday, Steve?
I certainly am.
And who are you supporting?
I'm going to the caucuses here in Ankeny, Iowa, and I will be supporting Rand Paul.
Why?
I followed his father for probably the last 20 years, and I thought that he was probably by far the best person to help our country, not just in our financial woes, but to preserve our liberties. And I think it's been proven over the past 8 years and perhaps the past 16 that our liberties have been taken from us. I think they might have pushed the overall debt past the point of no return. We might be in a position for the United States that we're going to have to renegotiate our debt or do something with that debt.
We'll get a response. Steve, thanks for the call. Senator Paul?
Well, a lot of our supporters are very concerned about losing our liberties, particularly in a time in which there is fear being promulgated. Terrorists, can't beat us in any kind of pitched battle or any military battle, but terrorists want to cause fear and terror. And we shouldn't let them, cause us to be fearful, and we shouldn't give up our liberties. Our people don't want to have the government collecting all of our phone records or all of our credit card statements. We want to be left alone, and we think that there is a right to privacy that is important. We also don't think that the government programs that have done bulk collection of all our phone records have made us safer or have stopped any terrorist plots. We think that our foreign policy ought to be one in which we defend America, that when we go to war, it's the last resort, not the first resort, that we declare a war when we go to war, and that really we don't get involved with nation building or regime change. Throughout the Middle East, every time we've tried it, some had this naive notion that somehow Thomas Jefferson's going to win the next election over there. But really what we wind up with is chaos, the rise of radical Islam, and things end up being worse than they were before we got involved. So our people want to question our foreign policy and say, really, has the intervention worked? Has it made us safer? Has it made the region more stable? And I think the resounding answer is no, it hasn't, and we need to try a new foreign policy.
We'll go to your home state of Kentucky. Jeremy is on the phone from Columbia, Kentucky, with Senator Paul in Des Moines. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Hi, I just wanted to thank Senator Paul for what he's done for the people and the way he supports liberty and non-interventionism. I think we shouldn't be all over the world fighting for every single thing and destabilizing Middle Eastern countries just so we can come in and swoop up all the profits. I just want to tell him that I really appreciate what he's doing, and we support him here in Columbia.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think that there is a growing consensus. And the interesting thing is that we have people who are Republicans, people who are independents, people who are Democrats who are coming to this message because, frankly, the candidate that is actually most likely to take us back to war in the Middle East is actually Hillary Clinton. So I think Hillary Clinton with the Democrats and Marco Rubio with the Republicans are the most likely to get us back involved in another massive war in the Middle East. And I think there's a growing number of Americans who say, gosh, can't we have a strong national defense, a Reagan-like national defense, but not be so eager to be involved in every civil war around the planet? We have to really think before we get involved, with trying to take out Assad in Syria. If we bomb Assad and get rid of Assad, my fear is that ISIS takes over all of Syria. So I think thinking before we act is incredibly important, and I think there's a growing consensus that are coming to this belief.
Billy is joining us, Salem, Virginia. Good afternoon, Bill.
Hey, good afternoon.
You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. What I want to say is I think Rand Paul's the most intelligent and the most articulate about identifying the problems and resolutions, the liberties we've lost, the dulling of the minds of the general public, believing that our federal government's going to save us, and the belief that that a smaller government is the way and the means to getting back on track to a free trade, free economy of supply and demand, and take this mafioso federal government, and whether you're Republican or liberal or Democrat, it's quite clear that there's nothing getting done but stealing and untruths coming out of Washington. And Rand Paul is exploiting that and doing a great job of making people understand. How do you pay off the national debt? You stop spending.
Billy, thanks for the call. Let me take a sentiment and ask you if you thought that you would be at this stage of the campaign, at this level, a few days before the Iowa caucuses, based on the message from the viewers that you're hearing today and the message that you have on the campaign trail.
Well, you know, I guess you never know what to expect. I was just a small-town eye surgeon a couple years ago. Never knew whether I'd ever even run for office. I ran for my first office and won, you know, a few years ago for the U.S. Senate. And to me, it's been an amazing journey to be on the national stage, to be part of the national debate. And I'm excited to be part of it. I mean, I am a great fan of our country's history. I'm a huge believer that the founders wanted a government to be very small and wanted our freedom to be very expansive. And so I continue to believe in that vision of the founding fathers that let's keep government restrained. Let's use the Constitution to restrain government. And to me, it's exciting that I'll be on the national stage tonight saying exactly what I believe, that our government should be restrained and constrained by the Constitution.
With the mayor of Lexington, Jim Gray, now likely to challenge you in your Senate bid, there's a story from Politico and also National Journal where some GOP strategists are urging you to not run for president and focus on your own re-election in Kentucky. How do you respond to that?
I always think it's kind of funny when unnamed people tell you what to do, because how are you supposed to respond to unnamed people that tell you what you need to be doing? You know, I've tried very hard to represent and be a good U.S. Senator. I show up for virtually all of my votes. I have a great attendance record. I've given back $2 million of my legislative budget to the taxpayer and to the Treasury. I continue to try to have a loud